Hey guys, Sunny Marie here, and this is actually our third episode for Marie Claw Academy. So I'm so happy that you guys have joined me for the third episode. Today we're going to get into the tools necessary to perform a service. Now, whether you're a DIYer or you're a nail tech that's actually taking clients, these tools are essential to perform any sort of service. All right, so we're just gonna jump right into it. Now, I've been doing nails for a little over 7 years now, and I've spent anywhere between, I don't know, $15,000 to $20,000 on just materials alone. I want to go down the list of items that I have purchased, what's worked for me, what hasn't worked for me, and hopefully that will assist you in saving a buttload more money than I did. First thing that we're going to start with, which is probably the most important tool, is going to be your e-file. Here I have a few different brands as well as types of e-files that I've kind of gone through over the years. This is the Pro Medical e-file. I really like this one. This is the very first e-file that I purchased. I love this e-file. It's lasted me over the years. The only thing about it is the vibration on the handpiece. It's a bit much, but I didn't know a difference when I first started out. I didn't notice a difference until I purchased another one, and I was like, oh my God, wow, this is so light. This doesn't vibrate as much. You do get used to it, and then also it doesn't tell you what your RPMs are. So this truly was a professional grade e-file. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as your first go-to, but again, like I said, I had no problems with this. I knew that I was going to go into the nail field full time, so it was an investment. I would recommend to you, especially if you're starting off in the nail industry and this is going to be your career, I would go ahead and let you know now you are going to need a rechargeable wireless handheld. This is important because especially if you're performing pedicures, which usually if you're starting off in a salon, that is mandatory, a rechargeable e-file is going to be much more efficient. By Melody Susie. This is a decent brand. I will say with Melody Susie, something I've noticed is that their hand pieces, the motor runs out a lot quicker, or they lock and you're not able to put your bits in it. I've gone through 5. So that is something that's stapled. I know for a fact that happens. Hey guys, so sorry about that. My video cut out, but if you look at the white circular e-file that's on my desk, that's by far my favorite e-file. That is by Young Nails. Now it is a bit pricier, but I love that you can read the RPMs with the dial. You can use a pedal, and it's just worked so well for me. So next we're going to talk about our bits. Now bits are really important when it comes to our e-file. This is what's going to help us shape our nails. It's going to help with prepping. Our first bit that's really important that I feel like everyone should have is going to be our sanding band. Now your sanding band is important because this is going to help with prepping. This removes any sort of shine on the natural nail. It's great for removing any sort of gels. You can do some light cuticle work as long as it's with a fine sanding band. Now these bands can come in fine, medium, or coarse depending upon what it is that you're trying to do. So some pros about the sanding band is that of course it's disposable, which for me, I love anything disposable. They are really cheap and they're great for prep work. Next bit that we're going to be working with today is going to be a cone bit. So this bit does a bunch of wondrous things. What it's really good for and what I like to use it for is cleaning up under that nail. You can also shape the free edge. So I do like to use this bit whenever a client says that they want something shorter. Depending upon the angle, I can go ahead and cut down that nail as long as there's product on it. I also like to use this for toes whenever there's any sort of hard to reach area. So this is really good for like those areas that are kind of hard to get to, even when you're kind of peeling back the skin a little bit. This point is going to really be able to reach in there safely and grab that product. So you want to use a cone bit for, of course, acrylics and hard gels. They are great for pedicures and getting in those hard to see spaces. And then of course, any sort of manicure that you're going to be performing with your e-file. So the cone bit is really great for that. The red is going to be for fine. Your blue is going to be for medium, and your green is going to be for coarse. Okay, so let's really break down safety bits. So what is a safety bit? A safety bit is any bit that's rounded at the top. This is really great for any sort of sensitive client or a newbie nail tech. It's awesome because you're able to get closer to the cuticle and sidewall without actually cutting the skin of the client, hence the rounded point. The great thing about a safety bit is that it is multi-use. So although I can use it to remove gels, I'm able to get around the cuticle. It's also really good for cutting down length as long as you have the right grit. Although the safety bit is amazing for multi-use purposes, it's not as aggressive as, let's say, a metal bit, right? So that means you're not really able to debulk a lot of product. In addition, because it is rounded and it's not pointed, it's going to be really hard to reach tight corners. So I definitely wouldn't recommend this for like a pedicure service. Safety bits are awesome whenever you're beginning and you want to make sure that you're not cutting the client. But if ever you need to debulk or you need to get into tight spaces, a safety bit is probably not going to be the first thing I recommend. So now we're going to get into our cuticle bits, which honestly are my favorite bits because it's all about precision. And I feel like without these bits, prep would be impossible, okay? So what are cuticle bits? Cuticle bits are going to involve your ball bit, your flame bit, your needle bit, micro bits. These bits allow you to not only exfoliate the skin, but push back and remove cuticle. Okay, so what exactly are they good for? Obviously, they're really, really good for Russian manicures. They're also great for just prepping the nail for any sort of nail enhancements. The color bands for cuticle bits are going to be slightly different. You still have your red and your blue, which is going to be your fine and your medium, but then you also have yellow and white, and that's going to be your extra fine and for delicate skin. The pros, obviously, for using these cuticle bits are that they're gentle and very effective with skin exfoliation. With cuticle bits, you really gotta be a professional. You gotta know what you're doing. You need practice. These bits are extremely dangerous if they're not used correctly. Cutting can definitely happen. They're absolutely not for product removal. And because cutting can happen and they can get into tight spaces, proper sanitation is a necessity. Now, diamond bits are usually like the standard bits that come when you order an e-file or if you order like a set of bits, right? They're the silver bits that kind of look a little ashy and dull, I guess is the best way to put it, but they're very much far from dull. So what are our diamond bits? Diamond bits are really good for surface smoothing. They're also great for cuticle cleanup, and you can shape gel or the natural nail with it. Something that you can also do with a diamond bit is that you can use it to exfoliate dead skin. Diamond bits are also used in Russian manicures, nail prep and finishing, and light shaping of natural nails. Your color bands are also similar but a little bit different. You still have your yellow, which is extra fine, red, which is fine, blue, which is medium, green, which is coarse, and black, which is extra coarse. The pros of using a diamond bit is that the bits are very, very long lasting. They don't clog easily, and they're great for cuticle or natural nail work. Number one con when it comes to a diamond bit is that it does generate heat easily. So you want to make sure when you're using a diamond bit that you're not overly excessive on the nail plates. And you definitely don't want to apply too much pressure. And of course, anything that generates a lot of heat and requires for you to not put too much pressure on it means that you need the experience in order to optimize its use. Okay, so this leads us into our ceramic bits. And I call them plastic bits because, I mean, they kind of act like it. They're really great for removing product. They're also really good for refining shape. And you can use them to remove gel polishes. If you drop a ceramic bit, 9 times out of 10, you're probably gonna have to get rid of it. And these bits are not the cheapest thing in the industry. They are pretty pricey. So for it to be dropped and ruined, I feel like ceramic bits really aren't my favorite. I do love that they are multi-use, and don't get me wrong, I used to swear by them. But just as I've kind of seasoned into the industry, I just personally don't necessarily love ceramic bits, but I will utilize them if I need to. A great thing about a ceramic bit is that they are cooler than a metal bit. They don't really generate a lot of heat, which is great for your client. They are durable and corrosion resistant. They are very clean. Now we're gonna get into our nail files. Now, of course, every nail tech or DIYer is going to need a nail file, but determining which nail file is right for you really does matter. Starting out, I used to work with the very bulky, very coarse nail file simply because I was doing acrylics all day. I wanted something that would break down product quick. But something I've noticed was, one, uncomfortability for me, but also my client was extremely uncomfortable. So I didn't necessarily like the big, bulky, coarse files as I continued my journey as a nail tech. And then you have like your curved file, which is a really nice upgrade. I like it because it does help with like ergonomically holding it, how I angle it. It helps with the curvature of the nails, any sort of shaping that I want to do. So then you have files that are like your peel and stick files. I really like these because sanitary wise, it's really nice. It shows the client that you're not reusing the files. You can just peel off the sticky part, stick it on, file the nail, and then you just clean and sanitize your plastic piece, and move on. I like this because the clients love to see that you're not reusing your files. I also like the Tammy Taylor files because they're skinny. So like again, ergonomically, it just works best for me. I notice that I don't have cramps in my hand when I'm working with a smaller file. The only thing that I don't like about this file is that it's not rounded. Sometimes I don't want to use my e-file, or I might have a sensitive client where I'm not able to buff the shine out with the e-file, with the sanding band. So I want to use my file. So that's the only con about these, is that they're square. This base is basically unbendable. So I love it because whenever I'm creating a shape, I notice that my file is a lot more firm and sturdy. So the shape that I'm creating is going to be very precise. Whereas some files, they definitely tend to bend as I'm putting pressure on them, and that can kind of mess up the shape that I'm trying to create. So that's something else to look at. That was the reason why I did invest in a peel and stick, because that metal back was just worth it to me. So now with these are like little mini manicure files, and I've noticed that I really like using these whenever I want to do hard gel. These are great to scratch up the nail, to shape the nail, to shorten the nail. These are just all purpose for me. Gloves, and these are actually extremely important. I definitely have 2 different types of gloves. I'm also going to post here the gloves that I recommend the most, because they each have like their own pros and cons. So this Fifth Pulse is an amazing brand. However, be wary that if you don't get the correct size and they're too small, you will have hand cramps. Like, this sucker is seriously true to size. These are mediums. I could not fit a small in this brand because they were so tight that my hands were feeling extremely sore after I did my service, so they weren't even worth it to me. Now, these are a lot more cheaper. I did get them from the nail store. Only thing I don't like about them is they're just not aesthetically pleasing. They're also hard to get on, so that's something that I don't like. And I noticed that they kind of say powder free, but I definitely had powder on my hands. So when it comes to gloves, you really need to be careful. And you do need to be a little bit selective with what you choose. You don't want to just get the cheapest brand. They do have certain gloves that also have like sort of grippies on the ends, and I like that too, because whenever I'm holding like my handheld piece, sometimes it can slip and the gloves can really just add extra grip. So it does depend on what it is that you prefer and what you like when it comes to your gloves, but don't just pick any gloves because they're cheap, because believe it or not, they all have their different qualities that can make a difference depending upon your setup. And then of course they have black gloves, white gloves, yellow gloves. Sometimes you can buy gloves that look amazing aesthetically and then you put them on and they rip really easily. So obviously that would not be beneficial for what it is that you're trying to do. So it's really important that you kind of test out different gloves to see what works best for you. Now, there are 2 types of masks that are a necessity as a nail tech, and one of those I actually do not have any more of. I need to go re-up on them, but the first is going to be your regular cloth mask. This is great to just prevent dust from getting in your lungs. You're going to have this for every client. I don't even care if you're doing like a regular manicure, it doesn't matter. If you're using your e-file especially, you need a dust mask. The other is going to be your plastic clear full cover face. Now, I always pop that sucker on whenever I'm removing anything. If I'm doing a fill, anything. Anytime my e-file is touching any sort of product, that's when I go ahead and put that on, because no matter what, something is going to fly in my eye. That is just what happens whenever you're doing nails. And so to prevent that from happening, because it is extremely painful, please wear your protective clear full face mask. That is so important. I know it looks extra, but it works. Art brushes. So as a new nail tech, I know you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm not really an artist. I just like putting nails on people, or I just like doing manicures. I love that you're so optimistic about this, but I'm telling you right now, as a nail tech, as you get a little bit of experience under your belt, first of all, everyone's gonna ask for a French. Everyone's gonna want a French manicure. That's usually the first go-to. Any sort of basic design, you need some line brushes. I would definitely say the standard to get is gonna be your 7mm, your 11mm, your 15mm, and your 20mm. Now, that is just the length of the brushes. Those are gonna be small all the way to long. I prefer long whenever I'm doing my French, but the best advice that I can give to you is to practice to determine, 1, what kind of brushes you need, and 2, so that you can really, really perfect it. Those are going to be your line brushes, right? So for any sort of line art, any sort of drawing, just any basic kind of art that you're putting on the nail, I definitely would invest in these. And they come in packs. Usually you can get them on Amazon. You can go into your local supply store, but they usually come in packs. I will say the double-ended ones, they're like gold or white. Those are usually the best ones, okay, in my opinion. Another art brush that you really need to invest in is going to be your gel brush. Your gel brush is going to look like this. It's kind of like rounded at the top. What comes to like a semi-point, almost like an almond. These are really good for hard gel or any sort of builder gel. So this is going to be great if you like doing like natural nails with a little bit of product on top of it. This is going to be the brush that you need. Okay, I use this more than anything else. So now we're going to get into our dust brushes. Now dust brushes can come in all different shapes and sizes and colors and all that pretty stuff. But it does depend on the type of services that you are doing that will determine what kind of brush you actually need. Now I always tell people you definitely need a brush to clean your desk off. So this is the brush that I only use to clean my desk off, and sometimes if I want to get the dust off of myself, I use this big guy. Now if you have a silicone mat, I'm going to tell you right now, this does absolutely nothing. You don't even need it. You just need to wipe it with a cloth. Alright, so if you're doing services like dip, you probably want to get a little nice fancy brush like this, because this touches the client and they usually like something all fancy and pretty. It doesn't necessarily need to be this, but I like these because they're kind of firm and it really gets the dust. So let's say you don't do dip services, perfectly fine. Let's say you do regular acrylic services or just manicure services. Dust is still going to appear on the nail whether you're using an e-file or you're using a regular file. So in order to clean off the dust, you don't always want to soak their nails with alcohol, right? Because sometimes that can either be uncomfortable, especially if you're just beginning, or they just don't want to have wet nails all the time. Like it could just be a lot to have to wet the hand every single time. So this brush I would recommend because I love the fact that it is covered. So once you dust the nail off, you kind of shake your brush out and then you can put it back in its case. But this is what I would use just to clean off some of the natural dust on their hands from whenever I'm doing like any sort of like light cuticle work or shaping of the nail. Hand rest. Hand rest is something that is based off of your preference. Understand this. I was buying hand rests for my clients, and although I want my client to be extremely comfortable, they only have to sit for the service for maybe 1 to 3 hours, whereas I'm here all day for as long as I have clients. So it's very, very important that I am comfortable as well. Honestly, it's probably more important. This was the first hand rest that I did receive. It was just your basic standard one, and it's cute, whatever. But I noticed that sometimes the clients don't know the position of how they should put their hands. This is what I've learned as a nail tech, being in the business for a little over 7 years. Their arm needs to be slightly out to where their hand and wrist, their wrist and their forearm is on this. If they're not doing that, it's going to be extremely hard for you as a tech to work on their hands. It's just not going to work. Although this is cute and petite, a lot of times the clients don't want to waste the space and they want to put their hands in the middle. They move around a lot. They just don't know where to put it. So I've noticed that this is not really helpful for me and the client, because they don't want to hear me every 5 seconds say, hey, can you put your hand straight? Hey, can you move your hand like this? Hey, they honestly don't like that. So we got rid of this bad boy and we upgraded to this guy. Now, I originally bought this because I had sleeping clients and they said that this was great for that, but it's not. But it is helpful for the client to just rest their hand on the rest the proper way, and it allows them to put their arms out the way they need to. I've noticed that when I have this rest, not only does it help me, but it also helps the client stay exactly where they need to be. So even though I love this bad boy, and it's my favorite, and it's usually the only one I work with, the only negative about this is that you kind of need to sit up a bit higher as a nail tech, because this one does sit up high. So the way it's angled towards the client is low, and it kind of goes up an arch. So as it gets to me, it's a lot higher than probably where it should be, which is fine because I have an adjustable chair. so I can just adjust my chair to where I need it to be, which is going to be a lot more further up, so that way I'm kind of where the nails are. If I'm too down, I've noticed like my back is hunched over and I'm really uncomfortable. When you're using a rest, guys, make sure that you also give yourself time for when the client sits down, when they rest their hands in the proper position, for you to get comfortable. Do not do a set the entire 2 to 3 hours where you're uncomfortable. Like, make sure that you're in position, make sure your client's in position. Do not, concern yourself with, oh, I don't want to move the client around. Like, no, this is your world. She's sitting in it. Okay, so adjust her to where you're comfortable and make sure that she's comfortable as well. If for some reason you guys can't get comfortable, switch them out. Like, sometimes this works for some clients, and other clients that I know, I have to bring out the old one, and that is okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But you definitely want to make sure that both of you guys are comfortable before you proceed with the service, because the last thing you want are wrist problems and back problems. I don't want it, and I don't want that for you. The next two things are optional, but I feel like not at the same time. Since we're talking about being comfortable, making sure our back is okay, things of that nature, something I've noticed that clients will do a lot is move. And I mean, we can't help it. We're all attached to our cell phones. I know my clients are, and at first I used to prohibit them in general, but this is a space of relaxation, right? So if you want to be on your phone, you want to take a beat and you want to look at reels, or you want to look at Netflix, I definitely want my clients to be able to have that. So what I did invest in was this phone stand. Now, like I said, this is not a necessity, but when it comes to being comfortable, trust me, this works a lot. So sometimes I'll lay it out here for the client to put their phone up, they can prop it up, and I've noticed that they're actually sitting up a lot straighter. So the phone stand is saving grace, because when the client is using the phone stand, I notice that they're not hunched over, their hands aren't moving around, they're a lot more still, and they're able to just kind of like poke and prod at it as I'm doing the service. So this helps me a great deal. And it also helps the client too, because I know that their back's hurting when they're like bending over, looking over, trying to like get close to their phone, figure out what's going on. They usually end up loving this guy. Next one is not really optional. You absolutely need one, although you should not purchase the one that I'm about to show you right now. You need a dust collector, and you need the dust collector sheets to go over it, because that's going to create longevity with it. Like, you want to keep this bad boy as long as you can. So definitely get the dust collector sheets to put over it so that your vent doesn't even get clogged up. You can just throw away the sheet. But dust collectors, I feel like they're self-explanatory. You need one. All right, so last on the list, and definitely not the least, is going to be your UV lamp. Now, I have been through some things with UV lamps. A couple of things you want to look for in a UV lamp is, number one, it should be rechargeable, okay? I don't care what anyone says. The less cords, the better. If it comes as a rechargeable, buy it. I don't even care what it is. If it's the dust collector, get a rechargeable dust collector. If it's the e-file, get a rechargeable e-file. Anything that can be rechargeable where you don't have to have cords hanging around, that's your best bet. You want it to be censored. Censored means that when they put their hand in, the light automatically comes on. That's very important. I don't know any other way to explain it. But you don't want to have to stop as you're painting to touch the button or to move things around. No, you want the client to just be able to put their hand in, it cures, then you can switch off, and it's just so much simpler. Another good tip, if you're like me and you're a perfectionist, whenever I do the thumb, I do have the client place it on the edge, and I'll bring the UV lamp up to them. Please make sure that your UV lamp is thumb approved. This one actually isn't. I have a second UV lamp that is. If you want to see it, I'll post it up here. But it is the Sun UV lamp with the pink top that you can get from Amazon. And that one, you can have the client place their thumb there. You put the light there and you cut it on. The benefit of this is so that the product on the thumb, whenever you're putting your hand in like this, doesn't move. Okay? Have you ever noticed that when you painted your thumb and you've cured it, it kind of looks like it's lumped on one side, like one side's thicker than the other? That's because it didn't cure instantly when you put it in, so it had a chance to move. We don't want that. We want it to cure, and we want it to be even, okay? So that's why it needs to be thumb approved. So it needs to be wireless, it needs to be censored, and it needs to be thumb approved. Whew, okay, I know that was a lot to take in, but I'm here to help you. These are all products that you're going to need in order to do your services. Now, one thing I didn't necessarily mention was prices, and I did that for a very important reason, because that is where you come into play. Just because something is the most expensive doesn't mean it's the best. Please take it from a professional. I have bought the best of the best and I've come up short. And then I've bought the cheapest thing out there and it's actually worked amazing. This is where you have to go out there and try different things. I'm only here as a guide and show you what works for me. But as they say, product plus technique equals result. You can have great products, but not the right technique, and you're not gonna get the results that you want. So make sure you practice, make sure you study, and please make sure you have everything that you need. All right, guys, so I do hope that you enjoyed episode 3 of Marie Claw Academy, where we broke down the different tools that you would need as a DIYer or a licensed nail tech. I really hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, please like, share, comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time. Mwah.